my first crowd surf that I did in Athens, I like trucked a girl in the front row.
I just jumped on her. Did she crumble?
I broke her glasses. It was bad.
Did you feel bad?
Oh, yeah.
It's Judah and the Lion. Give it up!
Go! Judah the Lion.
Hey. Let's give it up for Judah and the Lion.
Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh.
All right, this is how it works. The sauna starts at 160 degrees. Every 5 minutes, it goes up 10 degrees till we max out at 230 degrees. As soon as that door closes, a 30-minute timer starts, and that's the length of the podcast if you beat the heat. But throughout the conversation, there's 5 trivia questions that pertain to the guest. If they get the question wrong, water goes on the rocks, which makes it way hotter in the sauna. If they make it the full 30 minutes, they win the coveted Golden Ladle Award, which is the most sought after trophy in all sports and competition. So let's see if they have what it takes to beat the heat. All right, Jude Akers, welcome to Beat the Heat.
Let's go. Let's do this.
How you feeling?
Feeling pretty intimidated by you right now.
So this is how it'll go. All right, so we're at 160 right now. Max time is 30 minutes. So if you make it 30 minutes, you beat the heat. You win the Golden Ladle Award. Every 5 minutes, it goes up 10 degrees. So it'll gradually get hotter. There's also 5 trivia questions that pertain to you. I may have had some help on from your significant other. If you get the question wrong, water goes on the rocks.
Copy that.
Which you know.
So that's increasing it even more.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm pumped you came on. We're neighbors, actually, which is interesting. You might give the Dos Equis guy a run for the most interesting man in the world.
I love that challenge. Yeah, even more than the, the 30 minutes. I feel like if I can beat the Dos Equis guy, that would be awesome.
I feel like you have like a super unique story of like, you're an athlete, obviously musician, but like fashion. I just feel like everything I learn about you, it just goes in different directions that are against the norms. Like,
pretty weird guy.
No, it's sweet though. But what's crazy though is like, I feel like if I saw on paper, I would feel like you might be a weird guy, but you're like the most normal, down to earth dude ever.
I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely a lot of like lives lived, just going from like kind of a jock kid playing college baseball and then kind of being in music and stuff like that. Yeah, big fan of like not putting yourself in a box.
Yeah, you definitely don't do that. So I want to talk about that with like starting the band and everything. You were in college when it kicked off, right? Was it such a weird combo? Like, because being an athlete myself, like I can't imagine like trying to do 2 things at once or even like have the capacity for that. Could barely get to class half the time. So talk to me about like how that process was.
Well, Belmont, it's not maybe as like the baseball program at least was like maybe not as strenuous as your experience with football, but definitely a lot kind of going on there. And Belmont's kind of one of those schools that the subset as an athlete, at least when I was there, was like all the athletes rolled together, and then kind of like, it's obviously known for its music, kind of being a music school. So it gets a lot of music people. And so I feel like on any given day, I was in like baseball sweats and then like what people call like my hipster look, which is more kind of like so I feel like I got the really great experience with Belmont because I had my like baseball friends and athletic friends, but I was also making so many friends outside of like in the music program. So when
it's pretty rare, I feel like, I didn't have that many friends outside of athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because the athletes there like really gravitate towards each other because everything else is just so creative. When I was there, now it's like, bigger than life at Belmont. It's hardly recognizable. But yeah, when I met the guys in the band, I kind of had this like decision to make of like doing summer baseball or not, or really pursuing baseball or kind of going for the music thing, which both were pretty far-fetched goals. Being a professional baseball player is like, was way out there, obviously.
But you weren't like, you were in the, you're playing against guys and like, it wasn't the craziest idea.
No, and well, how getting
better
letters,
probability than what you're doing right now, I bet.
Well, there's a lot of correlation. Like Matt Beatty, a guy that I played with, a close friend of mine, got a World Series a few years back with LA. He wasn't on LA this year, but So it is kind of funny seeing like the correlation between athlete and band. And it's like, you know, for baseball, at least, it's like you're in the minors for forever, making no money, working really hard to hopefully get that shot. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And so it's just kind of the same way with bands. Like when we were starting, we started doing like these summer shows. It's the only time to really tour. And so we would go to these house shows at random houses, honestly. Like at the time it was on Facebook, we put a post up, hey, we'll come play your house for free, set up, do the thing. There's a lot of really funny stories about those house shows. But
when you picked doing this stuff, it was between this, were you going to go out east and play, or it's like summer ball?
Yeah. It was like Cape Cod. Getting kind of like the letters for kind of starting with like getting some letters from the next level, being stoked about like, you know, getting the letter from the Braves. My thing growing up, which was so fun. But my heart was always kind of, I loved baseball. I loved my experience, but very much more into the passion of like music. And I mean, you get it for like what you do. It's like, if you're going to do what you're going to do, you better put all of your energy into it.
Yeah, you can't kind of like,
there's no
spread it
half-assing.
out. No, not at all. I'm actually going to pause for our first question because it kind of goes in line. All right. So first question. Belmont has appeared in how many NCAA tournaments in baseball?
2.
All right, got it right.
Let's go.
Ease you into it a little bit.
Those are my 2 years too. So 2 to the 4.
I mean, best case scenario.
You're just helping me flex on
because
people.
of just you, right? Everyone says it was only because of you.
Yeah, that's what I think what the coach said too.
I think they call you the Otani of Belmont.
Exactly. I think they do. I DH'd all 4 years, so I don't know that I can take any credit. And we were really known for our pitching. We had great pitching when I was there. So
you can't win with zero runs
because of Judah,
right?
Yes.
Got to score a run.
Yeah, you got to drop bombs.
DH is kind of the best position.
DH is fun. It was really hard on my ADHD. I'll say that because you have to stay really focused and like stay in it. When you're playing defense, you're like, it keeps you in the game, but I had a horrible arm. So
really? That's surprising.
It was really bad.
Are you righty or lefty?
Righty.
Got it. What's your favorite pitch? You like you pull
fastball.
Hitter? Yeah, take it down the line. Nice. So what year did you start like developing the idea of starting the band? What year in school was that?
Well, I went to Belmont for music. So they have a music business program. And you get a bachelor in business. So like I could talk to my grandpa and my dad into like allowing me to study music because I was still getting the business degree. So I went there thinking I was going to write songs, play baseball, you know, kind of had my heart set on potentially baseball and then like writing songs on the side, like playing baseball and then, you know, on my kind of off time writing songs. And really it was like about that sophomore, junior year where like, I just was like, I got so into the music and started just writing songs kind of profusely and obsessively really. And even at that time, I didn't really think that I had what it took, not even like in a self-deprecating way. I just like, as an athlete, you know, you kind of look at yourself and you're like,
you're realistic.
Yeah. Or like analyze it.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think I have the voice to, you know, become like a full-time band or whatever. And then I met the guys in the band my junior year. So that was 2012. And when I met them playing some of these songs that I wrote with these folk instruments, which I'd never played with.
Yeah.
It was like such like an emotional moment for me. It's like, it was like, you kind of like, it not like falling in love, but it's like, you know, I don't know if you had this experience with Katie, but it was like the moment that I saw Cena.
Definitely.
Like, that's that moment. And so less romantic than that, but like emotionally, like I called my mom, I was like, I feel like I found like the sound that I was like supposed to make.
It's such a sick sound. Like, cause getting to know you, I've listened to more and more and more. And it's like, I mean, I also love hip hop. I grew up listening to hip hop and country and all this stuff. So like, it's such a cool in between and unique. It's honestly like nothing I've ever heard, but it's like, that's what's cool about it is I feel like you said, I feel like your life mantra is not to be put into a box. So like, it's such a cool combination. And now, you know, I have most of the days I have your song stuck in my head.
I appreciate that.
So I want to totally fast forward. So you were just on Jimmy Kimmel. Like, what is that experience like from a back end? Like, I can't even imagine. Because I feel like that's something that most people, it's like, it's so on a pedestal, you can't even imagine being behind the scenes. So I just love to hear like on the back end.
We've had some like really fun stories with late night.
You've done almost all of them, right?
Outside of Fallon, we've hit pretty much all of them. So I feel like each one kind of has like its own like amazing story. Kimmel, he's such a great dude. He's had us on like, I think this is the third time. Every time he's there, he remembers like our name, remembers, you know, the process, like remembers when we played it first, all that stuff. The funniest kind of experience was doing the Letterman the first time.
Okay.
And we were just fresh off college. Brian and Nate had just dropped out. I had just kind of finished up the baseball year or whatever. And like 6 months later, we're on like David Letterman. It was like 6 months before he retired. So like there was no reason for us to be on the show.
That's crazy though.
Like we found out like some staff picker was this like young girl that like pretty much got it in his ear, got our first record in his ear. And so long story short, we get there, we're freaking out, you know?
Yeah, like how long was this from? So this was what year?
2013. And then I think Letterman was 14, but.
And then what was the biggest thing before that, like you had done?
We like sold out as 600 cap room.
So you're just like 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, it was kind of funny because, you know, at the time we didn't really know what it would mean. So we thought that we were going to be like famous overnight, you know?
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to become.
It's like the equivalent of doing Joe Rogan nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what, it actually wasn't even that. Like for the band itself, it wasn't like, I think we gained like 10 followers, you know?
Yeah.
But we get there and his crew, he's had the same crew since he started really. And they just start dogging on us. Like this young band, like they're beautiful, like New York accents. Like the guy went and saw our keyboard player set up and he was like, who's the keyboard player? It's like, our sweet like keyboard player at the time was like, raised his hands like, how many of these keys are you gonna play? And he had 3 set up.
Yeah.
So all of them. He's like, and then he like mustered off to his side. That's some stupid ass keyboard player.
Yeah.
So we the last part of that was he keeps the studio that you're filming in like about 45 degrees. Super cold. That's a lot like this.
Yeah, totally same. Celsius.
Yeah. And so we're upstairs. We're tuning our instruments upstairs in like the normal like 71 temp green room. We come back downstairs and acoustic instruments, they just totally freak out, changing degrees. So it went from 72 to 46 or whatever it was. And all of our instruments go out, way out of tune.
Oh.
And then, you know, we're hearing the ears like 2 minutes left until air. And we're like,
freaking.
all like trying, we don't have our tuners. They're out on the stage. Like,
yeah.
So it was just like one of those kind of like really funny moments of like, man, it was just a complete shit show until that moment. And then the moment hits and, you know, you kind of black out.
Was it fine?
It ended up being fine. We like tuned it. And
how do you fix it? Like, how do you prevent that? Because that's got to be an issue for everybody, right?
Well, I think a more seasoned vet would have just kept the instruments down in the studio.
That's fair. That makes more sense.
We learned that too. Yeah. Like if we're playing an outside show and it's a little bit colder.
They have like a tips and tricks for anybody that goes on there.
Exactly.
Okay, so question number 2. This is from your wife.
Lord.
Other than you, Judah and the Lion, who is Cena's favorite artist?
Who has Cena's favorite artist?
Get this wrong, water goes on the rocks.
Odessa?
The answer is no one. she wrote the question. Oh my God. Beat the Heat is brought to you by LMNT. LMNT is my favorite electrolyte supplement on the market. I drink one pretty much every single morning. Their new cans are awesome, easy, and taste great. Use our link, drinklmnt.com/beattheheat. So drinklmnt.com/beattheheat to support us by getting your own element and using our link. It really helps the podcast out, and you will not be disappointed. Electrolytes are crucial for health function, longevity, cognitive function. So check it out. You'll be feeling better and more hydrated every single day. There we go.
She set me up for that.
I didn't do it. You got to blame her. You guys can sort that out later.
Also, can we talk about your calf muscle? Geez, you gotta stop.
I always had, it's genetic though. I literally got stopped in Publix the other day, and someone was like they literally like kind of followed me around, me and Katie were in there, and they're like, "Do you mind me asking like what do you do for your calves?" And I was like, "That's a weird thing."
I've never gotten asked that, by the way. So,
yeah, well, I don't think there's like, I don't do anything, so it doesn't. I don't have any advice, but there's pros and cons. If you heard my singing voice, then we'd be even.
Okay, well, that's probably fair.
So, has there been? I'm curious, like, I feel like your trajectory was.
I drink water.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's Element.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Element. I feel like your trajectory, it was like steep out of the gate, like in a good way. Was there ever a moment where like, did you ever have anybody that reached out to you or was a fan that you were kind of like blown away? Or was like, oh, whoa, like this is becoming a big thing. Like something that really burned in your memory.
Yeah. It's funny because, what we did in our path was very interesting. Like we chose to be independent this whole time. Mm-hmm. And we've had songs on the radio that have, had some commercial success, but a lot of those were like, we were kind of going alongside with the team. So this path of being an independent band was a very kind of lofty one, or I guess it was very ambitious. And a lot of our, like, I'll call them like our friends, uncles at weddings that just like are asking you when you're going to get a real job.
Yeah, for sure. I still get that sometimes.
Luckily, like our families, direct families, like have supported us. I think some of the like big moments that I remember is like selling out places that were never near, like Nashville. Mm-hmm. You start out and you're like, it's mostly your friends that you're talking into coming to the show, right? It's like they don't really want to be there. But the first show we ever had really outside of town was in Athens, Georgia. And we had just only put out like 2 EPs. And we had booked this tour at the time. I had made up my own like agent email. I was like, I think the email was like name? Judah and the Line management or agent, or was
Did
like,
you have a name?
Paul.
Got it. That's good.
Yeah.
Believable.
I was like Paul Metal or something like that. And I was like, these guys are killing it in Nashville. We booked this room. Everyone's telling us not to do it. And for whatever reason, the show like sold out. There's like a line out the door. They were singing every song. And in that moment, I like look at Brian when we get back to the green room after. I was like, what just happened? Like that didn't, how, it wasn't like in Nashville, like for, at the time we were doing like 300 tickets in Nashville.
Yeah.
We like all stage dope. I mean, we were just stoked. So I think moments like that are like pivotal for artists or for anyone to have those moments where you're like, okay, like I'm encouraged. Yeah, this is a crazy dream, but those little pockets of like, I think that we could do this if we could just replicate whatever this emotion was. So that was in 2000, right? It was like almost right before Letterman.
Do you feel like are you somebody that does a good job at like taking a step back and kind of taking it in, or was it just all happening so fast that it was kind of a craziness?
Well, honestly for us, our song Take It All Back, it was written after Letterman. And I love that music can kind of make that song for a lot of people is about someone that they've lost or like a father or grandpa that they've lost. But for us, it was, we played Letterman. We filmed it on Thursday. It was airing on Friday. So we got to go back home and watch it with our families. And Letterman at the time, at that time was like so out of reach. It was like,
he's like, that's like the guy.
Yeah. And like he was retiring 6 months later. And so I think we watched it and then that moment was gone. And like I said, we probably gained like 10 followers at the time. So it didn't really like actually mean that much to like
fleeting. Yeah.
Metaphorical needle. But it was a beautiful moment, but we had kind of had, and I think this is probably the sports side of my brain too. It was just like, okay, guys, like we can't live for these moments. They're going to come and go. The Red Rocks are going to happen. If we're lucky, they're going to happen, but they're here and they're gone.
Right.
So like if we're living or our purpose is kind of driven through these moments, we're going to show up really empty. And at the time, we were seeing like a lot of bands live in a very unhealthy way. And so I feel like you ride that high, and I know this as an athlete, it's like you ride that high for so long and then there's that big come down always. Yeah. And so Take It All Back is like kind of was written after that experience, being like, okay, like no matter what we do, like no matter how many people are singing along with the banjo or whatever, like let's let's make sure that we're doing this for the right reason. So in some ways, like we're really terrible at that because I'm hyper competitive as well. Like I'm overly ambitious and competitive, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But there's a fine line between like competitiveness, ambition, and like contentment and being fulfilled with where you're at.
Speaking of question number 3, I'm going to give you this within 3 million as a correct answer. How many views does Take It All Back have on YouTube? It's your highest view song on your channel.
I'm guessing, and it's been a while since I've that.
22.
22.
Yeah, you got it. Wow. I did not think you were going to get that one. Speaking of that, so your new album out.
It hasn't really gone up very much. It's the last album.
Yeah, but after this, it's going to make another run. But you had a new album out. The process. How was it? I think what's like kind of going back to the competitive thing, it has to be difficult, right? Well, a couple of things. One, you wear everything on your sleeve, I feel like, as an artist, which is really cool, but also extremely difficult. It has to be very hard when things aren't going great. But then the other part is like, as an artist, it has to be hard navigating, or you're competitive, right? But I guess, how do you measure success? Because if that's like views and streams and all that stuff, it's like, I'm sure it'd be easy to kind of lose yourself.
Yeah.
So I guess, how do you balance of like, what do people want to hear? What inspires you? Like, how does that process work?
That's the golden question. Is like, what are we doing this for? Like, what's the why or whatever? I like to ask myself, like, what's the why behind anything that I do? When I'm functioning healthily, I'm definitely overlooked at times. I think me and Brian, when we had like a direct shift after the pandemic, we had just had 2019, which is a major successful year for us. Maybe our most, selling out bigger venues than we'd ever dreamed of. We had an arena tour booked, and the pandemic got canceled. Obviously, the pandemic happens to everyone. We were actually probably stoked about it for the first 6 months. We got some time off.
I think that's everybody.
But it became this like, we lost all this momentum as well.
Yeah.
So, our next tour we booked was like another big club tour, which is amazing, grateful, but it wasn't arenas, like the competitive side.
Continuous,
So me and Brian, as we've kind of came back from the pandemic, we use it as kind of like, okay, this is a good reset time for us. And essentially our discussion was like, do we want to mean a lot, or do we want to mean a little to a whole lot of people, or would we rather mean a lot to a smaller amount of people? And both of our answers were really quick. Like, we'd rather mean the world to a smaller audience in clubs or, amphitheaters or whatever, than to mean very surface level. Because after you get that hit, like Take It All Back, which I love that song, but it like the verses are like very satirical. It's like very kind of satire and kind of joking about people singing along to the banjo. It's like kind of a cheesy. But you want it as a competitor. You want another hit. Like, of course, you want to drop a bomb. Like, of course, you want that amazing tackle or the amazing catch, like in a game. Like, we all want that. There's nothing wrong with it. But I think for us, the success has come with like the stories that we get to hear about me opening up about my divorce, or losing a couple, family members to mental health. How that kind of can open up a portal for someone else in their story.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think that decision even has to be made? Like, do you think it's possible to have?
I think there's a way to definitely have a hybrid. Like, we've had other songs do well,
Yeah, I'm sure there, certain songs, it's probably this perfect combination of both.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the best bands in the world do that, like the U2s of the world, and they do the full on like hits. They have massive hits.
U2, except for when they just uploaded their albums, everybody.
Yeah,
I still haven't forgiven
it for free.
I haven't forgiven it though. I'm still holding a grudge.
It's pretty rough. That was a rough moment for all of us, I think, as YouTube fans too. It was like, but after reading Bono's book, it's like that dude like made his whole thing off taking a risk. Like, he couldn't even sing like when he was first starting out.
Well, it's definitely one of those things where it was like, nowadays people would pull that trigger in 2 seconds, not knowing the reaction, because I feel like just marketing like that is just openly, like people are just like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter. But yeah, back then everyone was like, what was happening?
Yeah.
But you're talking about Red Rocks, and even just talking to you a few times, it sounds like that was like
that was a moment.
Insane.
That was a moment. We said no to opening there like multiple times because I always say like the athletic side and the music side is very similar in my brain, especially like when you're like music industry is changing every 3 months, just like podcast or just like YouTube. Like it's just, you kind of have to like, it's a puzzle piece to try to figure out how to, get your voice out there to find its audience. But that moment after we had said, we're not playing it until we can headline it. And, I think it was pretty much a sold out show. It felt like it was like 7,000 people in a 7,200 cap space. And it was like, you have to really breathe in that moment. And honestly, until the pandemic, like I totally took that moment for granted. Like I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I would have breathed a little bit deeper.
Well, you probably needed to breathe. You were running some steps, it sounds like.
Cena told you that?
Yeah, that's what happened there.
Yeah, that tour, we were playing a lot of amphitheaters. I grew up in Cookeville. Like, I love small town people. Like we bought tickets to Coldplay and we were in the upper deck. Yeah. Occasionally, like, if we were lucky, we're getting like the prime seats. And so I always said, if we're in the amphitheaters, I'm running up to the top and like giving that kid a high five. Or Red Rocks is like a feat. I did the run during sound check and I wasn't really running at the time. I was pretty unhealthy. And that one about killed me. And on the way up, kind of a funny story, I split my hand open. Like I was running up, misjudged a step, gathered myself, and I came back up and I was like blood everywhere. And I was like, oh shit. And people were trying to like high five you and they're like grabbing onto you. And I'm like, don't want to get blood on me. Yeah. And I'm holding the mic here. So I'm putting my hand back here. It was so funny.
Is there a video of this?
So the bummer about that moment was our lighting guy missed.
That's tough.
It was a hard moment for him. One, because I'm so fast.
Right.
It was almost like a blur.
Yeah, the shutter speed was too
low.
For sure.
Definitely. So, no fault to him. We just couldn't keep up with the speed. But we didn't get a video of it. And I was like, man, I did all that. And what's funny about Red Rocks and singing, and I don't know if you felt this when you played football in Denver, but it's really hard to sing in Denver.
Yeah, well, we get nice breaks, and I played fullback, so we were out. We had plenty of rest time. I hope you play it in the Rose Bowl someday, so you have to run all the way to the top of that thing.
Maybe I'll be old enough to where I'll have an excuse not to.
No, you're good.
Unless I keep doing the saunas.
You got to stay true to yourself, dude. That's the whole point of this. Okay.
Are we good on time?
We're at about 25 almost.
Okay. Get a golden crown or something? $1 million
golden ladle.
You said something. $1 million ladle guy.
So how many concerts has Judah and the Lion done in total? I'll give you within 10.
Okay, wait. What are we talking about? Are you talking about like headline show, radio shows included, or is it just like?
It is, I think, live concert venues. There's also, your wife gave me the stats, so I'm going to be honest.
It's 200 to 150 a year for 11 years, so I guess in 12. 1175.
753.
What are these stats she's giving you?
Super accurate. You guys can fight about it later.
Oh my gosh. 750 shows.
So this is about to get gnarly. We're at about 25 minutes. Yeah. Woo! What's wild is I didn't realize you did the college football theme song. It's like my favorite day of every Saturday. It's like all hours. So how'd that, like, do they just call you and like, hey?
We had a song that did well on one of the networks, right? And then the Let Go was an instrumental that we had on our record, Pep Talks.
Well, it's sick because it's like kind of like a band.
It's like a marching band.
Yeah,
kind of
like
style.
a college. It's almost like
record was all sports.
Yeah, like some Southern schools like marching band.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah. So the way that looks, or like when I was able to like write the NSC song, they'll kind of get you. And this is what we need. We need one phrase. It can be anything you want, but it needs to be like, go get them, or like power up, or whatever. And you're like, I don't know how to make power up sound awesome.
Yeah.
Or make it fit Judah and the Lion. Not that we don't have cheesy songs, but at that point we're like, oh God. And the pep talks was all about kind of like letting go and like all this stuff. So writing that song and then seeing like the highlights was like my one of my meccas. Just like just seeing like dudes rep each other up to your song that you made like in your room. It's like so fun.
But that was completely inbound. Like they reached out to you guys.
Yeah.
That's so cool because I feel like I'm sure like the other day there was a commercial, but like inbound stuff is sure. What's the chances that it's like the coolest thing that you happen to care about?
Totally. A lot of it's like, well, you do the commercial for X and Y, which grateful for, but it's not college football. Like game day.
Yeah. That's so sick. So
all right, it's hot in here.
It's hot. Just try to push through. So I've never crowd surfed. Oh, we got 1 minute left, dude. I've never crowd surfed, but I have
a lot of rules.
Well, I have some like concerns and like just logistically, it seems like there could be some red flags there. So talk to me about any issues we've run in with that.
I did get my crotch split open when I had a show.
Hoping you mean your pants. Okay.
I had underwear. I wasn't pulling a Kravitz. Like I was fully underweared up.
Anything stolen?
The pinching is weird. Like it's every night. You just get pinched on your ass or wherever.
So you go face up. You go face down.
You don't want to go face. You want to go on your back.
Yeah, face up.
Because if you go, you're gonna get grabbed in areas you don't want to be grabbed.
Definitely.
But yeah, like
depends on your goals.
There's definitely rules. Like my first crowd surf that I did in Athens, I like trucked a girl in the front row.
Just jumped on her. Did she crumble?
I broke her glasses. It was bad.
Did you feel bad?
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Did you do anything for her afterwards?
Think about like I wasn't as big as you at the time, but I was just out of college baseball, so I was 205, and I was like, "This is what people do. They just jump."
Did you like do anything for her?
No, I'm saying I gave her merch.
Oh, there you go.
I said, we don't have any money. Like, don't worry about the shirts. But yeah.
Well, dude, we made it.
Full 30 minutes.
You crushed it.
Let's
Congrats,
go.
Bro.
Michael Chandler, where you at?
Any last moment of I guess last question. What would be, outside looking in, the biggest misconception about you? Like how do you think people perceive you that's the most different from what you actually are?
It's funny, like most people that get to know me, they're always surprised at how chill I am versus like where I am on stage.
Yeah.
So that's kind of misconception. Like I always said the stage was a lot like going into the stadium, baseball or basketball, like a different, like I was the head of the FCA in high school, but I was getting the more technical fouls than anyone on the team. So
love that.
I think that there's like misconception there, just like that I'm like always just kind of like ripping. I'm pretty chill, so maybe that's the one. And I'm just really, really good at saunas.
Yeah, you are. I'm excited to see you because I got the dive experience where like I did before and then. But all right, great work.
Love it.
After you. Woo. That last one about killed me. You were good.
Dang, babe.
Want a towel?
He's like, yeah, it's mine.
Do I actually get done with this? Yeah, you get it. Judy, you won. You made it 30 minutes. Beat the heat winner. Going there, girl.
Huge.
My sauna is so much hotter. Yeah. More dusty also.
Judah, who do you want to see next try and beat the heat?
All right, I got to do my Cookville shout out to my boy Rich Froning. My golf shout out to Scotty Scheffler. I think he would do okay. And then a musical shout out to Rustin Kelly.